I always thought my family loved me. Not the hug you every day kind of love, just the we won't abandon you at a gas station kind. Turns out, even that was optimistic. We were driving to Myrtle Beach. Rick, my son, was behind the wheel acting like he was chauffeuring a celebrity. Amanda kept sighing at her phone like it insulted her childhood. My granddaughter Lily had headphones on and was yelling at imaginary vegetables in her game. Typical family trip. They whispered a lot. Not the fun whispering, the worrying kind. Words like schedule, he'll be fine, and my personal favorite, he won't even notice. We stopped at a gas station. I stepped out, stretched my old bones, went to grab a coffee, and when I turned around, their SUV was rolling out of the parking lot like it owed someone money. No joke. They just left. Me, my dignity, and a cup of burnt gasoline they called fresh brew. I tried calling, straight to voicemail. Amanda declined faster than I can blink. The clerk, Josh, stared like I was auditioning for a reality show. You okay, sir? Oh, just living every grandpa's nightmare, Josh. Never better. Before I go on, let me say something important. Subscribe, hit the like button, and tell me in the comments how old you are and where you're from. For you, it's just a small thing. But for me, it's the reason I keep telling these stories. I stepped outside, looked at the empty road, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Fire. If they wanted to leave me, fine. But they were about to regret it. Because 2 days later, I wasn't just missing. I was on the evening news. I didn't panic. I'm too old for that nonsense. At my age, you don't panic. You calculate. So I sat on the curb like a man who intentionally schedules his humiliation for Tuesdays. Cars came, cars left, and nobody noticed the abandoned grandfather sipping misery-flavored coffee. A trucker in a red cap approached. You stranded, old-timer? No, I said. Just waiting for my family to remember they brought me. He laughed so hard, he wheezed, gave me a granola bar, and drove off before I could ask for Wi-Fi. Back inside, I asked the clerk, Josh, you got a phone charger behind that counter, or am I supposed to power my phone with sheer disappointment? He handed me a charger like he was donating an organ. While the phone charged, I tried to call Rick again. Straight to voicemail. Amanda? Declined immediately. Lily? She answered, but all I heard was loud music and someone yelling, Grandpa, is that you? Mom said your phone died. Then she hung up. So they weren't just careless, they were lying. My phone hit 12% enough to make bad decisions with confidence. I checked my pockets. No wallet, no ID, no cash. Just a receipt from last week, 2 peppermints, and a stubborn sense of pride. I told Josh, you ever been left behind by people who claim they love you? He shrugged. Only my ex during a Black Friday sale. Well, I said, congrats. You're the closest thing I have to family right now. Then I decided something important. If my family wanted to pretend I didn't exist, fine. I'd make sure the whole state knew I did. I stood up, stretched my back like an ancient tree, waking up, and whispered to myself, Frank, you're going to turn this gas station betrayal into a masterpiece. And I took my first step toward doing exactly that, because by the next morning, half the county thought I'd been kidnapped. The thing about small towns is this. Once one person says something loud enough, the whole county repeats it like gospel. And apparently, someone saw me sitting on the curb the night before and decided I looked distressed. Me? Distressed? I was annoyed, insulted, borderline dehydrated, but distressed? Please. I survived the 80 seconds. Still, when I woke up on a bench outside the gas station, don't judge benches at my age count as beds, a sheriff's cruiser pulled up. Out steps Sheriff Dalton, a man built like a refrigerator that grew a mustache. He squinted at me. You Frank Williams? Last time I checked. Unless someone stole my identity overnight. We got a call, he said. Someone claimed you were abandoned. I raised an eyebrow. Claimed? Sheriff? I was left with nothing but a cup of bad coffee and a teenager named Josh who thinks he's my next of kin. Dalton scratched his chin. You want to file a report? Not yet. First, I want to see how far my family goes pretending this didn't happen. Just then, Josh came jogging out, waving a half-eaten muffin. Sheriff! He didn't pay for that coffee yesterday! Josh, I said, does this look like the face of a man who planned to be robbed of his wallet and his dignity? Josh nodded sympathetically. Sorry, sir, my bad. Dalton offered me a ride into town. I climbed into the cruiser and immediately realized two things. One, the seats were made for people with younger spine cartilage. Two, Dalton drove like he was afraid the road might disappear. As we pulled into the little town, people stared. An old lady watering her plants froze mid-spray. Two teenagers on bikes nearly collided. A dog barked at me like I owed him money. Dalton muttered, Word travels fast around here. Folks say you might have been kidnapped. Kidnapped? I laughed. Sheriff, my family wouldn't kidnap me if I came with free lunch. He parked outside the station and said, We'll put out a missing person bulletin. Standard procedure. Missing? I said. Sheriff, I'm right here. I'm as found as a man can be. Not to your family, he replied. And that hit me. Harder than the gas station coffee ever could. Somewhere out there, Rick and Amanda were pretending everything was normal while the whole town was preparing to look for me like I'd vanished into thin air. I stepped out of the cruiser, looked around, and felt something shift inside me. If they thought they could leave me behind without consequences, they were about to learn what happens when an old man gets underestimated. Because within hours, the local news station had my face on screen, and my son had no idea his little accident was turning into a statewide search. Sheriff Dalton didn't waste time. While I sat on a bench outside the station, trying to decide whether my knees were locked or simply angry, he radioed someone and said the words I never expected to hear in my life. We've got a possible elder abandonment case. Elder abandonment case. It felt like someone slapped me with a Medicare brochure. A woman in a green blazer marched out of the station. She looked like the kind of person who files paperwork for fun. Mr. Williams? I'm Carol from Social Services. Lord help me, I muttered. What did I do to summon you? Dalton whispered. Just cooperate. Easy for him to say he wasn't being evaluated like a houseplant someone forgot to water. Carol sat beside me, clipboard ready. Sir, do you know your full name? Unless you changed it while I slept on that bench, yes. And the current year? Oh, don't worry, ma'am. I'm perfectly oriented. But if you want, I can also name all the presidents in order while juggling disappointment. She blinked. We just need to ensure you're not confused. I'm 72, I said, not in a trance. Just then, a man in a Fox-printed t-shirt walked by, stopped, squinted at the news van pulling up. You the missing grandpa from Channel 6? I rubbed my face. Good grief. They work faster than my cholesterol. Carol perked up. Mr. Williams, you're on the news. Apparently I'm trending locally. Wish it was for something cooler like inventing a lawnmower you can sit on without pulling a muscle. The news crew approached. A young reporter named Samantha Reyes jumped out with energy that should be illegal before noon. Sir, we heard about your situation. Is it true your family accidentally left you behind? I stared at her. Accidentally? Honey, if they accidentally left me, then I'm accidentally 35. Dalton tried to shield me. Let's not jump to conclusions. But Samantha's eyes lit up like she smelled a viral clip. Mr. Williams, do you want to say a few words? To your family? To the viewers? Sure, I said. I've been abandoned, evaluated, and filmed. Might as well add a public statement. They pointed the camera at me. And for the first time since the gas station, I felt my chest tighten not from sadness, but from the realization that millions of strangers were hearing my story before my own son bothered to check his phone. So, I cleared my throat and said, if my family is watching, don't hurry. Clearly you have important things to do, but I'm doing just fine. Better than fine. In fact, this town treats me better than you treated me on Route 17. Samantha's eyebrows shot up. Carol gasped. Dalton whispered, Frank, tone, but it was too late. Within 2 hours, people across the county were arguing about me online. Some insisted I'd been abandoned. Some said it had to be a mistake. One lady claimed I looked like her ex-husband and demanded I return her blender. The funniest part? Every time the news replayed my clip, they added dramatic music like I was starring in a crime documentary. And somewhere out there, Rick and Amanda were still blissfully unaware that I had just become South Carolina's accidental celebrity. But fame wasn't the end of this story. It was the spark that finally forced my son to face the truth. By late afternoon, my face had officially become public property. Every TV in town showed my interview on loop. Even the diner 2 doors down put the volume up so high it sounded like I was yelling from the kitchen. I needed a moment to breathe, so I walked inside. The place smelled like fried hope and good decisions. A waitress named Marlene, with hair big enough to qualify as a landmark, hurried over. "Sugar, are you the gas station grandpa?" I sighed. "Yes, ma'am, at your service." Unintentionally. "Well, sit yourself down. First cup of coffee's on me. The second, if you start crying on camera again." I wasn't crying. Baby, I seen it. Your lip trembled, like a guilty man in court. I sat, anyway. My legs demanded it. As I stirred my coffee, I finally checked my phone. 31% battery. 8 missed calls. All from unknown numbers. Not one from Rick. Not one from Amanda. And then, I saw the text. From an unknown number. "Turn on channel 6. Your son's on." I froze. Marlene didn't wait. She turned the TV above the counter to channel 6 faster than a gossiping aunt at Thanksgiving. There he was. Rick, my grown son. Standing in front of his house like it had personally offended him, he looked panicked, sweating, pale, repeatedly blinking like he was trying to remember how eyes work. The reporter asked, "Mr. Williams, is it true you forgot your father at a gas station?" "Forgot? Like I was groceries." Rick stammered. We didn't forget him. Dad, he got out of the car and wandered off." Marlene stopped wiping a table mid-swipe. "He called you a wanderer. Sir, do you wander?" "Only when the TV remote goes missing." The reporter pushed. "Your father says you left intentionally." Rick swallowed so hard the microphone picked it up. "It was a miscommunication. He told us he needed time alone." My jaw dropped. Marlene whispered, "Oh, honey, he lying like a rug." Then the reporter played my clip, me saying, "Don't hurry. Clearly, you have important things to do." Rick's eyes widened, like someone hit him with a memory he didn't want. Amanda suddenly appeared behind him, whispering, "Fix it, Rick. Fix it." She was shaking like the car keys were still in her hands. The reporter asked, "So, will you pick up your father now?" Rick nodded hard. Yes, of course. We're on our way." He ran to the car so fast he bumped into the mailbox. Amanda hissed at him. The microphone caught it. Clear as day. "Do something before this ruins us." The diner went silent. Dead silent. Then Marlene muttered, "Well, looks like somebody's vacation just turned into a confession." I sat there, staring at the TV, heart aching and boiling at the same time. Not because he panicked on live news, but because it took public shame for my own son to remember I existed. I pushed my coffee aside, stood up, and told Marlene, "Guess I'm not done being missing just yet." Because before Rick could reach me, something happened that changed the whole story. I stepped out of the diner with one goal, not to make it easy for Rick to find me. If he wanted to fix his public image, he could start by learning the difference between a father and an inconvenience. But the universe had its own plans. Just as I reached the sidewalk, a white van pulled up with a giant blue microphone painted on the side. The sliding door flew open and out jumped a man with a ponytail, sunglasses, and the energy of someone who drinks espresso from a bucket. "Frank Williams?" he shouted. "Depends who's asking," I said. "If you're here to sell me vitamins, I already take too many." "I'm Victor Hale, Channel 9 News. We want an exclusive." "Lord help me, another one." Before I could decline, he shoved a microphone near my chin. "Sir, is it true you were left behind like a bag of mulch someone forgot in the driveway?" I finished. "Yeah, that's exactly how it felt." Victor beamed like I'd handed him a trophy. "Sir, The state is talking about you. Has your family apologized? Not yet, I said. But my son did remember one thing: how to sprint when the neighbors are watching. A small crowd gathered a barber, two teenagers, a woman walking three dogs who clearly hated each other. One dog kept staring at me like he recognized abandonment too. Victor leaned in. Do you want your family to find you right now? I thought for a moment. A long one. Then, no, I said. They can take their time. I'm finally meeting kind people for a change. The crowd murmured. The dog lady nodded like I'd said something profound. And then it happened. A police car rolled up, fast lights flashing, siren blipping twice. Out stepped Deputy Harris, young, nervous, and built like someone who apologizes when bumping into furniture. Mr. Williams, he panted. We got a 911 call. Someone reported a possible, family abandonment. Emergency escalation. I blinked. What does that mean? Did they promote my abandonment? Harris wiped sweat from his forehead. Sir, there's a statewide bulletin on you now. Victor's jaw dropped. Statewide? Harris nodded. Even Georgia shared it. For a moment, I just stood there. Me, a retired grandfather who spends most nights arguing with the thermostat. Now a statewide alert. I laughed, actually laughed, right there in the street. People stared like I'd finally snapped. Maybe I had. Harris looked worried. Sir, are you feeling okay? Never better, I said. I've lived 72 years, and nobody ever paid this much attention to me unless I was grilling burgers. Victor gently tapped my shoulder. Frank, your story is becoming huge. People are calling you a symbol. A symbol of what? He shrugged. Respect for elders? Road trip safety? Justice? Possibly forgetful families? The internet isn't very consistent. Before I could answer, Harris's radio crackled. Unit 7. Be advised. The subject's son is entering town. Repeat. The son is approaching. The crowd gasped like they were watching a telenovela. Victor raised his camera. The barber leaned forward like this was better than anything on TV. I took a breath, looked down the street, and in the distance, Rick's SUV turned the corner, rolling toward me slowly. Too slowly, like even the car felt guilty. And something inside me shifted again. Not anger, not revenge. Something deeper, older, heavier. Because now that he was here, he'd have to look me in the eyes and explain why I wasn't worth checking the back seat for. Rick's SUV crawled toward the sidewalk, like it was afraid I might file a complaint against it personally. When it finally stopped, the passenger door swung open, and Amanda burst out, first hair, frizzy, sunglasses crooked, expression tighter than a jar she'd never be able to open. Frank! She shouted, as if she'd been searching day and night. I'm so glad you're okay. I stared at her. She stared back. Victor's camera zoomed in like this was the season finale. Rick stepped out next, his shoulders slumped, his shirt wrinkled, and his smile so forced it looked like it hurt. Dad, we were worried. Really? I said. Before or after the interview where you called me a wanderer? Ooh, the crowd loved that. The barber muttered, oof, hit him right in the haircut. Even the dog lady whispered, get him, Grandpa. Rick swallowed hard. Dad. It got out of hand. The news twisted things. We didn't mean to leave me behind. I cut in. Well, you succeeded, intentionally or not. Amanda rushed up, grabbed my arm as if guiding a toddler toward a birthday cake. We're just glad you're safe. Let's go home, okay? Home? I said. You mean the same home where nobody noticed I wasn't in the car for 45 full minutes? Amanda's smile cracked like cheap porcelain. She tried to whisper something, but the microphone caught it anyway. Rick, fix this! He's embarrassing us! I lifted my eyebrows. Oh, honey, sit down. I'm just getting started. Rick stepped forward, palms up. Dad, please, can we talk somewhere private? I took a moment. A long, honest moment. Because everyone was watching, but this wasn't for them. Son, I said quietly, private conversations are for people who tried their best. You didn't. You tried to avoid inconvenience. He winced. Really winced. Like I slapped him with a truth he didn't want. Then Lily hopped out of the back seat, messy ponytail, big eyes, holding a stuffed flamingo. Grandpa? She whispered. Mom said you wandered into the woods. I bent down to her level. No, sweetheart, I didn't wander. I was left. Her eyes widened. She looked at her parents. What? Why would you leave Grandpa? Amanda's jaw locked. Rick looked like he wanted to teleport. Lily, he said, it was a mistake. A misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, I repeated, that lasted 2 days and required 3 news stations and a sheriff to untangle. Lily grabbed my hand. I don't want you to stay alone again. Something inside me cracked. Not the bad kind. The kind where your heart remembers it can still feel. I squeezed her hand. I won't, sweetheart. Not anymore. Rick stepped closer. Dad, can you please get in the car so we can talk? And I almost did. Almost. But then a voice from behind us shouted, Frank, over here! We turned. It was Mayor Thompson, short, round, wearing a suit 2 sizes too hopeful. Behind him was a cameraman from Channel 12. The mayor waved like I was a parade float. Sir, we'd like to honor you at tonight's town meeting for highlighting elder mistreatment awareness. The crowd erupted. Rick's face drained of color. Amanda's jaw fell open. Lily whispered, Grandpa, you're famous? I shrugged. Apparently. And right then, watching Rick panic, while half the town applauded me, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. I mattered. To strangers. To neighbors. To this town. And maybe now finally to my own son. But the real confrontation hadn't happened yet. Not by a long shot. Because that night, after the town meeting, Rick followed me outside and the truth finally came out. The town meeting was surreal. They sat me in the front row like some honored guest, right between a lady knitting aggressively and a man who kept falling asleep on his own shoulder. Half the townsfolk came just to stare at me, the gas station grandpa. Mayor Thompson gave a speech so dramatic it sounded like he was nominating me for sainthood. And let Mr. Frank Williams be a reminder that no elder should ever be forgotten. Forgotten. That one stung more than I expected, but I clapped politely while the knitting lady whispered, You show 'em, sweetheart. When it ended, folks lined up to shake my hand. One man offered me chili that had a suspicious glow. Another insisted I take his cousin's business card, just in case you ever need roofing. But eventually the hall emptied, the lights dimmed, and I stepped outside into the cool night air. Quiet. Finally quiet. Until I heard footsteps behind me. Dad. Wait. Rick. Alone this time. No Amanda hovering, no cameras, no crowd. He stopped a few feet away, hands in his pockets, eyes on the ground. A boy, again, not the grown man who drove off without looking back. Dad, he said, voice cracking. I'm sorry. Silence hung between us like wet laundry. I didn't say anything. Let him struggle. Let him think. He took a shaky breath. We didn't do it on purpose. Not intentionally. We were running late for the hotel check-in. Lily needed her headphones. Amanda was arguing with the GPS. I thought you got back in the car. You didn't check, I said softly. He closed his eyes. No, I didn't. And when you realized? His shoulders dropped. We did realize, Dad. 40 minutes down the road. Amanda said you'd probably Uber. I said we should turn back. She said you'd be mad if we ruined the schedule. He swallowed. And I listened to her. There it was, the truth. Ugly, simple, unmistakably human. I nodded slowly. You knew leaving me was wrong, but you did it anyway because it was easier. He flinched. Dad, I've been a lousy son the past few years. Always rushing, always stressed, always thinking everything will sort itself out. And I started treating you like background noise. That one hurt more than anything, because I knew it was true. He stepped closer. Then I saw you on the news, not angry, not yelling, just hurt. And suddenly I realized I'd become the kind of man I swore I'd never be. He wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed. And seeing Lily look at me like I was the villain? Dad. I can't explain how that felt. I sighed. I'm old, Rick. I don't need grand gestures. I don't need parades. I don't even need fancy apologies. I just need my own son to remember I exist. He nodded, tears finally forming. I know, and I want to fix that. I want you in our lives not as a burden, not as a chore, but as family. For the first time in a long time, I believed him. But then, because the universe loves comedy, the town stray cat wandered over and rubbed against Rick's leg. Rick jumped like he'd been electrocuted. Jesus! What is that? Your first step, I said, chuckling. If you're gonna reconnect with me, you'd better get used to unpredictable creatures. He stared at the cat. Does it bite? Only attorneys and men who abandon their fathers. He paled. I smirked. The cat purred. Rick let out a shaky laugh, wiped his nose on his sleeve, and said, Dad, come home with us. Please. I didn't say yes. Not yet. Because there was one more twist waiting for me, something that would test everything he just promised. And it arrived, the very moment Amanda marched toward us, face red, arms crossed, ready to explode. Amanda stormed across the parking lot, like a hurricane wearing sandals. Her arms were crossed so tight I thought she might snap in half from her own tension. Rick stiffened. I braced myself. Even the stray cat retreated behind a trash can for safety. Frank, she said, voice sharp enough to slice deli meat. We need to talk. I smiled politely. Amanda, darling, unless you brought snacks, this better be good. She ignored that. She always ignored the good material. I saw the broadcast, she hissed. Do you have any idea how many people are messaging me? How many parents at Lily's school think we're monsters? How many neighbors asked if we've been reported to Adult Protective Services? I raised an eyebrow. I mean, have you? Rick covered his face with both hands. The cat peered out from behind the trash can like it didn't want to miss a second. Amanda took a step closer. If you come home with us, you need to clear this up. Tell the news it was a miscommunication. There it was. The real reason she was here. Not for me. Not for family, for reputation, for the HOA gossip chain, for her precious image of perfect suburban motherhood. I crossed my arms to mirror her. Amanda, my dear, I didn't put us on the news. Your husband's mailbox did more damage than my words. She blinked. Frank, this isn't funny. No, I said gently. Leaving me at a gas station wasn't funny either, but it happened. She opened her mouth again. But Rick stepped between us. Amanda, stop. Just stop. She stared at him like he'd grown a second head. What? He swallowed. We did mess up. I messed up, and Dad has every right to be upset. She scoffed. So what? Now he's the victim? We were stressed. We were behind schedule. Lily was whining. The GPS was glitching. I held up a hand. Amanda, when someone is stressed, they forget a grocery list, a birthday, maybe to buy milk, not an entire grandfather. The crowd of cicadas in the trees went silent. Even nature stopped to listen. She crossed her arms tighter. What exactly do you want from us, Frank? A parade? An apology banner? A medal? No, I said calmly. Just honesty. Rick exhaled hard, almost relieved that someone finally said it. Amanda looked between us and realized the tide had shifted. Her tone softened just a hair. Fine, she muttered. I'm sorry. There. Happy? It wasn't sincere, not even close. But it was the first crack in the armor. I studied her. This woman wasn't evil. She was overwhelmed, image-obsessed, terrified of being judged, and completely unaware that family isn't a performance. I sighed. Amanda, listen. I don't need a dramatic apology. I just need to know that from now on, you see me as part of the family, not luggage. She hesitated. Her jaw trembled just a little, the first genuine emotion I'd seen from her all day. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, she whispered. I thought you were fine back there. I thought you'd tell us if you weren't. I nodded. I did. Several times. You just didn't hear me because you weren't listening. Something shifted in her eyes. Realization. Regret. Or maybe she finally saw me not as a burden, but as Rick's father, Lily's grandfather, a person who mattered. Lily suddenly ran up between us. Mom! She said, tugging Amanda's sleeve. Can Grandpa come home now? Please? I miss him. Amanda looked down at her daughter, then at Rick, then at me, and for the first time, her voice lost every sharp edge. Frank, will you come home with us? I felt the weight of it, the sincerity, the fear, the hope. But before I could answer, the stray cat climbed onto my shoe and sat there like it had legally claimed me. Rick laughed through his nose. Dad, even the cat wants you. I looked at the three of them, my son, my granddaughter, my complicated daughter-in-law, and I felt something warm rise in my chest. Maybe this wasn't just an apology. Maybe this was a beginning. But my answer would have to wait, because just then, another news van pulled into the lot. And when I tell you the headline they brought changed everything. I mean, it changed everything. The second news van screeched into the parking lot like it was late for its own breaking story. A young reporter jumped out, waving a tablet in the air. Mr. Williams, we need a comment. The bulletin just updated. We all froze. Rick, Amanda, Lily, even the stray cat paused mid-tail flick. The reporter stopped right in front of me, breathless. Sir, the official statement says this wasn't a criminal case. They labeled it. She tilted the tablet so we could all read it. Family miscommunication. Resolved with no harm intended. Rick exhaled like he'd been holding that breath for 2 days. Amanda sagged just a little, as if someone finally turned down the heat under her panic. Lily smiled and squeezed my hand. But me? I didn't feel relief. I felt clarity. Because in the middle of this small-town chaos, one truth had become undeniable. I wasn't the man left at a gas station. I was the man they came back for. I stepped forward, gently pushing the tablet aside. No comment, I said softly. This is family business, and we're fixing it ourselves. Rick nodded quickly. That's right. We're okay now. Amanda swallowed, then added. We're going to do better. Not perfect, not polished, but real. I turned to Lily. You ready to take your old grandpa home? She nodded with the enthusiasm of a kid who just won a puppy, and then quietly, without cameras, without speeches, we walked to the car together. Rick opened the back door for me himself, carefully, respectfully, like he was placing something fragile and important where it belonged. Amanda handed me my wallet. My mistake, she whispered. Not defensive, not rushed, just honest. Lily climbed beside me, hugging my arm like she was afraid I'd disappear again. I won't let you get left behind ever again, Grandpa. I kissed the top of her head. I know, sweetheart. I know. Rick started the car. Amanda turned off her phone. For once, nobody rushed. Nobody sighed. Nobody checked a schedule like it was a sacred text. We just drove, together. And as the gas station faded in the rearview mirror, I realized something simple and deeply true. Families don't stay strong because they never mess up. They stay strong because they choose to come back even after they fail. When we pulled into the driveway, Rick turned off the engine and looked back at me. Dad, you're not a burden. You never were. I'm sorry I made you feel that way. I nodded. Just keep remembering that. Not when it's convenient, but every day. He nodded, tears in his eyes he didn't bother hiding. Amanda leaned over her seat. I know I can be, well, me, but I don't want you to feel small in this house. You deserve better. I smiled. I'll take me over a gas station any day. She laughed genuinely this time. We stepped inside. Lily insisted I sit in the comfy chair. Rick made me tea. Amanda turned on a baseball game she hates but pretended to enjoy. Home wasn't perfect, but it was trying. And that's all an old man can ask for. We don't measure love by grand gestures or by the days that go perfectly. We measure it by who shows up, especially after they get it wrong. And sometimes, being left behind is the very thing that teaches a family how to move forward together.